11. One of your FY1 colleagues is away on annual leave, which was booked 6 weeks ago. The department has not organized a locum to cover their leave, and you have been asked to stay late to cover this evening's 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on call. Your contract states that you are expected to provide cover if a staffing emergency arises. Rank in order the following actions in response to this situation. 1 equals most appropriate, 5 equals least appropriate. A. Offer to cover the shift on this occasion, stating that you would like the lack of cover investigated to prevent it occurring again. B. Ask one of your colleagues to cover the shift as you have other obligations which cannot be cancelled. C. Say no and leave at 5 p.m. D. Cover the shift as you are contractually obliged to do so. E. Ask to speak to medical personnel to ascertain why no locum was organised. This was an expected absence and they had ample time to organise a locum. Answer A, D, B, E, C. Looking at the list of options, 2 of them, A and D, involve you covering the shift. This is what will be expected of you. Firstly, because your contract mentions you are expected to provide emergency cover, and secondly, because you are expected to work with the team to ensure that patient care is provided adequately. Therefore, those 2 options will rank at the top. Option A, offering to cover on this occasion, is a fair approach since the situation has arisen as a result of a failure by the department to organize cover and you want to make sure it doesn't become a habit. It also goes one step further by ensuring that you deal with the problem in the long term. Therefore, option A ranks higher than option D. 2. Options B and C both involve you not running the shift. Option B, asking a colleague to cover, is the more helpful option because you are trying to find a solution to the problem. Option C, say no and leave at 5 p.m., is the least helpful as you are just essentially walking out. Refusing to help with no reason given is not good teamwork. It is not your fault that the locum was not booked, but it is everyone's responsibility to provide cover to ensure that patients are safe and well looked after. So, options B and C will come next in that order. Important note, the exam requires you to rank according to what you should do and not what you would do. In this case, in practice, some candidates may well first ask another colleague to cover the on-call, especially if they have already made plans for the evening. But the theoretical answer sought by the examiners will most likely involve you getting out of your way to cover the on-call before you start dumping the problem onto someone else. 3. So far, we have established the order A, D, B, C. We simply need to determine where option E fits amongst those 4 options. Option E simply mentions that you will complain to medical personnel about their lack of planning. That would be a legitimate complaint to make, but it is not very constructive. It is, however, slightly better than just walking out, as it keeps the dialogue open and may help sort some issues out. As such, it will rank higher than option C, walking out, but lower than option B, asking a colleague to cover. 12. You are the FY1 on call during the day and have been working a busy 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. shift. During the hospital at night handover at the end of your shift, the site managers mentioned that the night medical registrar has called in sick with diarrhea and vomiting, leaving only 2 ST2s and another FY1 at night to clerk in waiting patients and cover the wards. There are currently 6 people waiting in A and E who still need to be clerked in. Rank in order the following actions in response to this situation. 1 equals most appropriate, 5 equals least appropriate. A. Ask the night nurse practitioners, NNPs, to clerk patients during the night's take. B. Stay and clerk patients until the workload is more manageable for the rest of the team. C. Call the on-call consultant to discuss the situation. D. Ask an ST2 to phone the night registrar who was supposed to come in and to ask him politely to come in for a few hours until the workload is more manageable. E. Complete a critical incident form. Answer CBEAD1. patients fall under the responsibility of the consultant. Therefore, if there is a risk to patient safety, which would be the case if there is no senior cover, the on-call consultant should be called option C. Once you have informed him of the situation, he can make a decision on how the situation should be handled and may come into hospital to cover the take team, at least until the workload is more manageable for everyone concerned. 2. Staying behind to continue to clerk in patients, option B, is a noble sacrifice, but you need to be aware that you are tired as well after having done a whole day's clerking. However, given the potential patient harm that could occur if you do go home with such a depleted night team, this will be an appropriate thing to do. 3. Out of the remaining options, completing a critical incident form, option E, won't do much for the current situation as it unfolds, but will at least ensure that the problem is recorded and investigated. E, asking the NNPs to clerk in medical patients, option A, would not be appropriate as they will not have received suitable training. As such, option A is equivalent to leaving the depleted team on its own, that is, do nothing. Asking a potentially infectious doctor to come into work, option D, is completely inappropriate as he may do more harm to patients than good.